Webtoons is not something I've ever really even thought about as an option, but here we are. All right, welcome to the podcast. I have on a great new guest I'm really excited about. She is a illustrator, writer, author of this really cool manga webtoon called Middle Ground Crescent. This is Krimanga. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
So what I like to do is really reach out to creators, authors, writers, and artists to kind of discover and learn about your passion, how you make it happen, where you're coming from, where you're going with it. And then also, I like to provide, possible avenues for other writers and screenwriters out there who are looking to kind of branch out. So I've had on writers who have made like web series. I've had writers who have made podcasts and have gone on to sell them to big shows. So I always think there's great materials that we can mine. And having seen you at Comic-Con and chatting with you and looking at your incredible artwork and the fact that you have a fan base, Webtoons is not something I've ever really even thought about as an option, but here we are. So before we kind of launch into like what a webtoon is and how you're doing it, what you're doing, I want to get a little bit of your origin story and what led you to do this.
Okay, so my origin story started 4 years ago. I wasn't really into art as a kid other than like drawing little Sonic the Hedgehogs,
Really?
notebook papers, yeah, and that was pretty much it. And during the summer of my freshman year of high school, I was bored and I was like, I remember the show called Dragon Ball when I was a kid,
I love
but
Dragon Ball.
I really remember it. I was like, kind of, because I was just too young to remember what it was about, but I remembered liking it. So like, I'm just gonna watch it. And I became obsessed with it, the story, and just, I didn't like really know anime in general.
Mm-hmm.
So that like changed my world. I was like, okay, I want to make this.
So you really dove into it.
Yeah, but I wasn't really like confident in like trying to make comics early on, so I just drew fan art.
Okay.
A lot of fan art, and I got right away into posting on social media from that moment because I was like, I want a diary of this. Social media is my diary of posting literally every single thing I've ever drawn. Even if it's terrible.
That's interesting. I've never thought of social media as a diary, but I really love the way that you look at that. That's fascinating to me.
So like, and I always tell people this because like, instead of looking at the numbers, it's more like your story.
Yeah.
And then other people can see like you improving, but I didn't think about that. I was just like, oh, here's some rip-off Goku that I drew this morning. You're welcome.
Awesome.
That is basically what I did, and I did that like every day until I got my first digital tablet. I was like, I started getting into Webtoon, which was kind of like, it wasn't new, but it was becoming more popular because Korean manhwa was becoming like more and more popular.
What's Korean manhwa?
That's basically what Webtoon is.
Okay.
It's like based off of it, like scroll comics, but
Okay.
it's like manga from Korea, but like scroll.
Interesting.
So Webtoon is, so I would call mine a Webtoon. So, and then I wanted to do that because I was like, there wasn't any good manga websites at the time to post, and they weren't really like popular. There's some like, I think Manga Plus that is coming, that is out right now. That's good for posting manga and giving you a chance.
Yeah.
As an outside creator, like not in the country, to work for these companies.
Make a little bit of a living.
Yeah, but not back then. So Webtoon was the only one. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna jump into it. I know nothing about writing, nothing about comics. I've just drawn fan art for a year, and nothing about digital art either. So I just did that and jumped right in. My first story is terrible. I attempted it 3 times. The third one is what's out in public right now. It's still terrible. It's horrible, but you gotta get your stuff out there. And then now I'm on my second series, and then I'll be starting my third series really soon. But a lot
That's
of
awesome.
between then. So that's kind of like the origin story.
I love that you're self-critical because I think any artist or anybody who really loves what they do is self-critical. But I mean, the fact of the matter is you have fans. I saw your fans. You've got thousands of people who follow you online. People love your stuff. And they go out of their way to meet you. So as terrible as you think it is, obviously something is working.
Yeah,
Um, so
it
let me
starts
add what?
starts out terrible, and I'm the type to gradually improve.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like. There's a couple of things that you're doing that I think are great. One is that you're really branding yourself. The whole Krimanga thing, I think, is a great way to do it. And then looking at your social media as a diary, I think is incredibly intelligent because most people are like numbers, numbers, numbers. You could care less about that. For you, it's a journey, but I bet you that makes your social media following I bet it's endearing towards others because they can watch you grow and become better.
Yes, that's what I think is like a little bit different about my account, and
Yeah.
will advise people to treat it as a diary.
Well, when we were at Comic-Con, there was one person who recognized me, and there's a bunch of people that recognize you. So I was like, all right, she's doing something right. So I think that's awesome. So with your story, where did you get inspired? Where did it come from? So the name of the book that we're going to talk about right now is Middle Ground Crescent, but of course we can talk about your other work as well.
Okay, so Middle Ground Crescent is my current series, and my main inspirations for it were Webtoons because I started reading a lot more Webtoons when I was starting this one. And my favorite Webtoon is called Purple Hyacinth. It's
Okay.
by Sophism and Ephemeris, so it has an artist and an author that does it, and
Okay.
it's like painterly style, but it's not like the line work isn't perfect, but it still like tells the story extremely well.
Okay.
It's just an amazing story, and it has like um there's like this villain or this anti-hero group called Loon in the story,
Okay.
and I want to like base something off of it, so I called my villain group in my story Lunar, and I
Okay.
was like, oh, it
Stealing it, making it your own.
making it your own, just a little throw in, little sprinkle of that series, and then because I just love it so much, and
Yeah.
then Dragon Ball as my favorite series always has a place in it, but it isn't a shonen like Dragon Ball. I like action, like plots, like action
Hmm.
setting,
Yeah.
but wish it was more emotionally driven.
I love
So
that.
I tried to put that as my in my story Middle Ground Crescent, which like Purple Hyacinth is a lot more about emotion than it's like action, but it's still based around action.
So it's action, but it's driven by that kind of that young A, that YA feeling your feelings as a young adult type of drama, right?
Yes.
So one thing I looked at your book and I found really interesting is there's this very specific story structure in anime and manga. And one thing they do is they'll start you kind of in the beginning of the story, and then after a few episodes or a few books, they cut to almost like a cliffhanger, and then they go back to the origin. And I think that's something I see you doing as well. Now, is that something that you are aware of, or is this just like an inherent? I've read a lot of manga, and I know this is how to do it.
Is inherent, um, but with my first story, and usually with my stories, I like start from beginning to end. There's a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
That's how. But with this one, I wanted to start at the present, go back into the past with a different character, and then, but to kind of make the readers think that, oh, the first episode was a different character, this one's the main character,
Right.
and get rid of that character, and they're like, what the heck? and then go back to the present with the first character and tell the story from there.
Yeah.
And it was very funny because my social media was excited for the release of this uh,
Yeah.
Middle Ground Crescent, and I made a little thing where I was like, draw this in your style, and put my villain character as and the series didn't come out yet, so everyone thought this was the main character.
Oh, you're
And then so
playing
I
with people.
my yeah, I put my villain character as the main character basically, and they had to draw him. They're really excited. They're like, "What's his power? What's gonna happen? Oh, I really like this main character." And then the second episode, if you read it, they're like, "What? Why is this happening? I thought this was the main character."
That's hilarious.
So you're just like, they were like, "My heart is torn."
I love it.
So it's fun to play with your audience a little bit.
So you're, I mean, you're really kind of savvy at the whole marketing thing. I mean, that's one thing I noticed that I've never seen anybody else do was you would do like a live drawing for your social media
Yes.
right there so that people could see they could see how the sausage is made, right? So you're
Yeah.
right there and you're doing these really quick, incredible drawings, which blows my mind because 4 years ago you weren't even 4 or 5 years ago you weren't even doing this, and now you can draw something incredibly fast and beautiful. But again, that lends to your branding, and people get to see it. As a screenwriter, I don't really get to do that. I can't really like post online. All right, guys, we're gonna do a page today, and then just start writing in front of them on a white piece of paper. So that doesn't work for me. But you being a visual artist and a storyteller and being able to go on Instagram, which is really great for visual arts, um, really allows you to kind of build out that brand. I think that's brilliant. So you're getting inspiration from all of these different storylines. You're bringing them together. You're creating your own story. I think it's great. Let me ask you this: do you see in the future where you would be like, I've got writer's block, or I want to take the story to another level. Do you see yourself reaching out for writers and start having writers working for you so that you can start focusing on the art? Or are there stories in you that you have to tell?
I've there's stories in me I still have to tell. That is for sure. Maybe one day. But I don't think I want to become proficient enough at both writing and artwork where I can be like, okay, I'm complete professional, and then maybe reach out for help to make the story like absolutely incredible. But
Yeah,
right, I am toxically independent. Where I've tried
that's
to work with
hilarious.
before,
Yeah.
but my like my writer's side kept coming out of me, and I was changing the entire scripts because I was working with really young
Yeah.
um, authors that were very into the shonen anime tropes.
Okay.
A lot of those are can be like problematic and overused. Problematic as in the female characters are really misrepresented and stuff like that. And then also some grammar here and there, and the story would just be the same thing like Naruto, but a different setting. And I was just changing everything. I was like, why am I putting why is someone else's name on the writer's part if I'm writing
Right.
the story? So I didn't want to do that anymore. So it's like, okay. At that point I was doing two series at once, my own series, and
Wow.
so I was like, okay.
And
I was
another series for someone else, you said?
I was uploading 1 week,
Wow.
uh, for 1 week of my own. The next week would be that episode for the other series, and I'd go back to mine. So it was bi-weekly, two series at once.
That's a
Um,
ton of work.
yeah, it was a lot of work, and I wanted to write my own.
Yeah.
So I quit that. I started working a lot on my own, because I still needed to improve a lot in like I've only been doing digital art for 3 years, so just learning how to write and do art at the same time, which does coincide a lot. I know a lot of artists that are like, okay, I want to be a master at art from the
Right.
beginning, then I'll write a story. And then I'm like, no, your story is going to be really, unless you are born prodigy at writing, unlike me,
It's hilarious.
writing is just as important, if not more important than the artwork.
I think that's really true. I mean, there are teams out there where one is a writer and one is the artist, and they work together as a team, and they make that happen. So there's definitely room for writers to partner up with someone, partner up with an artist or an illustrator, and start really creating that IP and building a franchise, really. And essentially, that's what you're doing. What I really like hearing from you is the maturity behind your understanding of writing. I mean, you talk about the tropes, for instance, and it is so easy to write tropes or cliche when you're working in a specific genre. Like, for instance, it's October right now, so Halloween tropes are, of course, the screaming girl with the long hair who's like running and then trips, right? I mean, you've got these tropes. So what are the tropes that you're really trying to upend with your story? Because I'm really interested by this because I really don't follow manga or anime, so I'm not completely aware of what the tropes are. Anything outside of Dragon Ball Z where they're constantly leveling up. So,
Yeah. Um, like in okay, Dragon Ball is a good example. There's a lot of good female characters in Dragon Ball, and I mostly like focus on like gender.
okay, all right,
And I think we be like more diverse in like skin color
yeah,
with my. I want to be more diverse in body types, but I have to learn how to draw more of those in order to do that, which
right.
I excited to
Is that
learn.
something you're seeing now with anime?
But
Is more body
it's
types?
yeah, it's becoming a lot
Okay.
more diverse in like sexual orientation, body types.
That's mind-blowing because I really didn't even think about it, but now when I look back at it, you're right, it's been very homogenous as far as the type of anime and the characters and that are shown, that it makes sense that there is plenty of opportunity for diversity and inclusion in
Yeah.
those.
And what I do like to focus on is gender, because the female characters in anime are known just to be horrible misrepresentations of women. It's getting a lot better though, which is so amazing to see. But with Dragon Ball, the main female character Chi Chi was like a really cool and thought out character from the first series.
Mhm,
But once she becomes a mother, and then in the recent series in Super,
mhm.
all she does is yell. So what?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a trope that I see a lot. And a lot of the male characters in manga that I read, especially shonen action manga,
Uh-huh.
um, they have like they have like they can think like pretty well and have well thought out
Yeah.
like emotions. The female characters are like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I like it. That's it. And it's
So no
oh,
depth. I
oh my god,
gotcha. No internal conflict. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Uh, I would with my characters, I want to have them think a little harder.
I
Um,
like that. So what is the future for you? Where do you see you're going? So you've got Middle Ground Crescent now. Is this kind of summing up or is this an ongoing series? What are you thinking?
it is supposed to be long running, but with it,
Okay.
I've learned a lot. So after the next episode comes out, which is tomorrow, I
Oh,
will get starting to work on a new series,
oh, good.
which will be a slice of life sports webtoon, because I have a background in sports, a lot of them. So I was like, okay, I want to do something I have background with. And action isn't my favorite to read. Sometimes my favorite is slice of life, but I was always worried
Interesting.
it might be too boring. But that's what I love. Not boring, but like emotion making the drama instead of the sword becoming the drama.
I love the slice of life aspect because that I know I'm aware that is a genre of manga where it is really it's just about a normal person living their life and dealing with troubles like making rent or falling in love with someone that's they're not relate that they don't have any way to relate to and how they can kind of overcome awkwardness. So like things like that um, you don't see much in film, but there is a what we call a low concept film, which is like character driven type
Mhm.
of television or film, and I can see that's really what that slice of life is. Is it's just really it's just about character driven and creating those characters that have depth, have meaning, have the internal conflict. So I mean, I love that you're trying that out, and I really want to see where it goes. I also want to pitch this to you. If there was a writer out there who's a screenwriter and they're not able to get anything made, they don't have the budget to film a short story. Do you think it's plausible for them to find an artist out there and then convert their story into a webtoon and create their own IP that way?
Through Webtoons and not film.
Yeah,
Um, yes. If you want a really good and experienced artist to do that, it might cost a pretty penny to convert your story if you're going to commission an artist to create into a webtoon, because webtoon is a lot of work. Um, but if you find someone that is willing to partner with you, um, that way and like try to build a story together, which I have tried working with artists just to partner with them, see what happens. it,
yeah,
it is totally possible. And since film is their budget to make a good film is insane, it's
yeah,
gonna a lot less.
yeah,
But screenwriting and storyboarding for like a webtoon, like script and then storyboards, completely different. It's still a thing that you have to train yourself to do,
right,
going from writing to storyboarding a webtoon because the format is so different, but it's completely possible.
right. No, I like that. I think that's a good idea. And as a writer, I mean, that's you should learn how to write in different ways. It makes you better. And there's always opportunities. You can always put a call out there, or I'm sure there's artists in local colleges that are looking to get stuff made, and so there's always opportunities to make it happen.